So it is 5:31. We are in the city council meeting center. We are the Parks and Rec. We are the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. It is 5:31 on May 4th, 2023. I'd like to call to order and a roll call. I would like to call the May 4th, 2023 meeting to order. Will the Parks and Recreation Administrative Assistant call the roll?
Delker. Via. Dutel. Here. Scudder. Hacker. Here. Oberts. Badla.
Also in attendance is Mr. Joel Todd, Assistant Director. May I have approval of the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Are there any objections to approval of the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Item 3, approval of a minutes. Approval of the March 2nd, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the March 2nd, 2023 minutes?
Sure, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd,
Thank you, Ms.
2023.
Dutil. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. Oberts, thank you. Thank you. Are there any objections to approval of the March 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes? Seeing none, they are approved. There are no scheduled public comments or presentations this evening, so that brings us to action item number 5. Is there a motion to, the action item is 5A, recommending changes to the campground and Soldotna Regional Sports Complex fees. Is there a motion to recommend changes to the campground and Soldotna Regional Sports Complex fees? May I have a motion?
I would make a motion.
Thank you very much. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. I guess I better put these names down, huh? Oberts? I'm not Oberts, I'm sorry. Yeah. She moved it. Yeah. Connie did? Okay. That's what I thought. That brings us to the report for the director, Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you. We've done various rates at various times. Part of the budget process and part of the yearly process is that the council adopt a yearly rate structure for the Parks and Rec Department. And some of our fees haven't been adjusted in a while, and some with new happenings and everything else seems the time to do it. For the most part, we're holding steady on a majority of the items, except for some of the fees in the campgrounds, as well as the hourly ice rates at the sports center. I believe the ice rate at $210 per hour for the rink has been in place for 10, 15 or more years. Other rinks have gone up. We've tried to hold as best we can. But I remember the city manager, the very first city manager I worked for 30 years ago said, Andrew, whatever you do, don't get behind on your rates. And I still don't feel we're behind, even though we haven't adjusted them. Because one of the conversations I remember during the original hiring process was you have a facility that accommodates and provides opportunities for many, many people. And that requires a subsidy. You have 2 options. You can continue that subsidy at the current level or similar levels, or you can attempt and have your use levels at maximized facility capacity, or you can raise the rates to the point where on paper in the planning process, you could recoup those fees. And in the process, then still end up with a subsidy because you've now priced yourself out of allowance for a significant amount of the population. And over the years, the council has saw that, and the people of Soldotna have seen that as a worthwhile approach, especially when we talk about recidivism and keeping kids out of jail, or even adults having a goal instead of drinking or contrary behaviors between 5 and 9 until they got to go play hockey and really try to live their dreams. So we've held pretty solid on towards the bottom end of the spectrum. In fact, the only municipal rink that I know of that's less is the Kenai rink, which is only 3 sides, not heated, etc. We're lower than Homer. We're lower than all the rinks in Anchorage and everything else. And at times we do have teams come down, but so far when especially in the last few years, we're rebuilding to the to the level where we're running out of some ice time, where it's very tight to get the ice time, which means we're using the facility as much as possible. Obviously, we have the Brown Bears in there that accommodate up to, well, they averaged about a little over 1,000 fans per game, with the last few being closer to 2,000. And so that means if you apply that over the course of 28 games, that's well over 30,000 visits during an 8-month period. And over the years, everybody in Soldotna has viewed that as an acceptable and a worthwhile approach, considering that bars, restaurants, McDonald's, everything is waiting lines only on those particular winter event evenings that happen. So the economic stimulus indirect helps. It gets people moving. It gets them something to focus on during the dark months. And this winter was a challenge, even though it was beautiful with lots of snow. It still gives people an outlet. There were well over 2,000 people for the last Friday night's playoff game. The ball fields were full, the roads were full. It was a mess. As Joel can attest, I was out of state, but it was just bedlam. It was a magnificent bedlam. The Bears ultimately did not progress past that game and lost in overtime. But nonetheless, it showed the level of support that the overall building has and importance to the community. So we've held it at the $210 per hour, but we view that now it's time to raise it at least something. And we're not proposing a big raise, but it does help about over the course of 2,000 plus hours. You know, the $10 increase we're proposing would be $20,000 and chip away. We'll have a whole different picture when we move forward. When the field house is constructed, different staffing models and everything else. But in terms of those, we don't have any rates established for that because that's out there. But that's probably one of the most more, and though not a big change, one of the most pressing change that hasn't happened for a long time. Other changes we're looking at is to increase the yearly camp night fees. The last 2 years since COVID have seen record levels of participation in the campgrounds. And in terms of those things, the year before last, it was the most ever. Last year, it was down a little bit just because life had gotten back to normal a little bit post-pandemic. But in terms of those things, it does cost a nice amount, and there's some materials and supplies. Even though it's more of a rustic campground, we still have to replace boards, replace picnic tables, staff, and be honest, one of the most extensive duties we have during that time is very staff heavy, which is just simply trash. And we run those dilemmas year round in all of our facilities, is keeping up with the trash. And the city, as of right now, the one piece of equipment we recommended for purchase to help with those trash has made it through the administration's office and headed to the city council to assist with that in the form of the specialized trailer that allow that. So we're looking to go on the off season. Remember, we have an off season and then we have a peak season where from up until July 6th, it's $21. It was $21 a night. We're recommending to go to 23. And then during the peak season, we're recommending to go from 26 to 29. We're still the least inexpensive, other than the state campgrounds, we're the least expensive campgrounds comparatively to Homer and Seward, which are, I think Seward's 45 or 50. And so trying to keep those particular things affordable as well, because once you start looking at somebody deciding to stay in Soldotna for a month, even at $30 a month or $30 a night, just under, it's still almost $900 a month to park your RV. And the question is whether or not you want those dollars come into the city pocket, the municipality pocket, or into the business's pocket. So we still like to have a reason for people to stay here, maybe instead of Kenai. And so you can see the differences in the rates between us and the Kenai for the dip net fishery. And we have a lot of facilities we've constructed to assist with those folks' pursuits. And we have a lot of people. And if you get, and a lot of times multiple units will be in one site. And so those sites end up carrying a lot of money. In 2016, we did the boots on the ground survey, and we came up with the average spending per person at that time was $118 and 36 cents per person per day. Yeah, is what they ended up spending, not just in the campground, but while they were here. And I've had many conversations about just the economic impact, whether it's our campgrounds or even the dip net fishery. That the people come here, they spend money, and that the average party is 2.5 people, and the average stay is 3 days. You figure we camp almost 14,000 nights for summer, times 2.5 times $118.36. That adds up pretty quick to the bottom line of the economy. So that's where we're about. With the same token, we could price ourselves out if we wanted to grade it. Stewart has a model that they're kind of like the professionals. In fact, the software they use, I think they're one of the top entities within that company's entirety, that as far as gross revenues and stuff like that. But and that's not saying they're right or wrong, other than they have maybe a little less space. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the rate increases. And that's the gist of it. Everything else is pretty much a hold. We had a lot of conversations Joe and I did with relation to grass events, parking lot events, and those type of things that were kind of odd. But then when we really dug it seemed out of like, but when we looked at them, we reviewed rates as, okay, this actually works and actually does make sense over the years that we've developed. So that's where we're at on that. In terms of the rate increases, short and sweet meeting for my last one. Tried to, at least on paper, it's brevity, but my monologues aren't. But in terms of that, and that's where we're at for for tonight's action item. And then after that, we'll step into some reports.
That the Soldotna house that's hired. The Soldotna Regional Sports Complex. So those will stay pretty close to being the same. It's just a little bit of a rise in.
The CPI for Anchorage was actually 8.1%. But if we followed that all the way through, we would be pricing out some portions of the community in terms of based upon economic equity. Hockey already has that hockey is expensive. It's projected like the Batman signal in Gotham, as far as being cost. I can't do it. My son can't do it. My daughter can't do it. So we're trying to at least do our part as far as on the community basis to keep those affordable.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I think it's really important information, and I think it's interesting to know. I think you might have told us about the $118 earlier that people spent, but that's you forget about those things. That's a lot of money to spend per day per family, whether it's in the campground buying wood or if it's in the community. So that's really an advantageous issue. So is there anybody on the board who has any comments or questions on the Director Carmichael's report? Okay, Ms. Oberts.
Turn this on. I'm curious, will these rate increases meet all the maintenance requirements and possibly the new hires for summer?
Within the campgrounds, it will help with our bottom line. We actually do profit through the campgrounds. We're not in the business of making a profit as a government entity, but the campgrounds are a revenue center. So we do it like that. So, but it's a matter of keeping up with that. We still don't want to go backwards where we can. And though we love the tourists, they're still not our people. So we still, they still have a lot of people that come in the community and stay there and stuff like that. So we're just trying to keep it at an attractive price so that we can continue to get that ancillary stuff. One of our biggest challenges in our campground is the traffic in and out. When you go to Russian River, for instance, especially at Sportsman's, you go behind the gate and you stay. And people are fine with that because that's a destination. There's not a ton in Copeland Landing, but they're going there. Whereas in Soldotna, those people are going in, out, in, out, in, out all day. And we try to find ways to attenuate that. But at the same token, if you get too rigid, then they don't go to Fred Meyer's. They don't go to Trustworthy. They might not take that extra $50 trip for whatever. So trying to keep it in that margin. As far as the sports center goes, sports center is going to be a subsidized entity. Ice rinks and swimming pools don't make money in the governmental setting. Going back in time, not too long after I took over, I went on sound off. And I don't know if it was better or worse, but I remember they finally got to the thing and the announcer said, well, what about it losing $110,000 a year? And I looked at him and I said, we don't lose money for the community. And he looked at me funny. I said, well, if I can, and he goes, what do you mean? You do too. I go, no, as far as a community wide or even the state level wide, we do not cost the community money because all I have to do is keep 2 kids out of jail. And I've saved you $10,000 a year. And that repeats and that repeats and that repeats. If those kids don't get into problems, they have alternatives. And we all know, we've all lived here for many, many years. We know at least 5 kids on our hands that we know that could have went either way, but they decided and they had that motivation for this extracurricular activity. And it's not just hockey, but basketball, football, and band and some of those things. And I remember talking with Rick Busey one time. He said every time a bus landed back then in their parking lot, it was worth at least $250 at their deli alone. But those kids had a direction. And after that, then we kind of ended up in a little better place as far as even amongst some of the more conservative folks that said, wait a minute, we pay it forward. We provide these opportunities for kids and adults. So in terms of that, that's going to be a subsidized item. But it's just the cost of having a healthy community in Soldotna. Soldotna is kind of a poster child for recreation and quality of life success over the years for a lot of reasons. And at least the sports center hopefully is at least part of it. So, and there's been people who actually have stayed and not moved to Anchorage and other places because we had those opportunities present, whether it was figure skating or hockey or Rusty Blades, maybe. So that's where we're at.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question and thank you, Director Carmile, for the answer. Any other questions or concerns? I had the same question, Ms. Oberts, before I came here, and then I looked it over and spoke to a couple of people, and $2 or $3 when we added on per night for camping isn't very much for me to pay if I come and stay 7 days. But if you have a lot of people who are in there, and I didn't even think of that. And so I just thought, oh boy, that's not a big enough jump. But when you look at it collectively with everything else, it's a big enough jump, and it provides people that opportunity to think this is a good place to go. It's not going to cost me so much to camp out or to skate, and it'll be lovely. It'll be getting out of a big city or whatever. And it made more sense to me to just wait and see how things go and wait till the Soldotna Sports Center comes on board and so forth, and then take a look at things in light of all of that later, because I had the exact same question when I first went through. So thank you for that. I have one further question about this. We've looked at other communities to see what they have to pay. That never really has to be an issue, does it? Because each community is an entity unto itself. But do you think that brings us more money when we have reasonable fees? If it brings us people, so it brings us money that's spread about the community.
In the campgrounds, I believe it definitely, because people pinch pennies anymore, especially with fuel prices and everything else, the way they come. And they look at it. And even the the patterns of use over the years have been different. 20 years ago, people would make 2 or 3 trips down to and they didn't care whether the Reds were in right then or later. They would come down multiple weekends. Well, they come down once and stay for a little longer duration now than they used to. And we have quite a few people that do come down and stay the whole summer. And $900 a month for camp space is still out there. When you look at the sports center, if we raise it $10 an hour, it's still keeping it within the affordability. That's first of all for our constituency here. But then when you look at if a team of 25 kids comes in and they each have a $10 meal, that's another $7 or whatever it is in sales tax that goes through the businesses. So some of those attractive aspects. And we have over the years had some teams come down and do their early season training here because they could come down, the whole group could come down and skate for 8 hours for $1,660 worth of ice time versus $3,200 in Anchorage. So some of those type of motivations and over the years to promote some of that stuff. That we are looking at putting the ice in, or we're planning to put the ice in August this year because the Kenai rink it's dropped off of that. You might have seen in the papers and stuff like that. So we may see even more of that happen now coming forward with August ice. When we put it in September and such, it wasn't conducive. There's school schedules and the seasons were already going. But when we start talking August ice, there's a great proclivity, I believe, to have some of those teams back up everybody and come down for a isolated special training system and some games and such like that. Price point, get them here and then have them spend money in the community.
Very much. I'd like to note Mr. Delker came. Thank you very much. I know you're working hard. He was here at 5:50. Do you have any questions on the advisory board, campground and Soldotna Regional Sports Complex fees?
No, I think in general, it seems like we've always been more than reasonable with those rates and it's, I mean, we're obviously not short on campground participation and other participation, whether it's the ice rentals or things. So I think we've always been more than, seems like we've always been in the market and keeping things in mind and keeping things cost conscious, but still trying to make it pay for itself. So I think we've been very conscientious, it seems to me, over the years. So I don't have any major concerns with these increases of considering everything with the present state of the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delker. Further discussion, I'd like to call for the vote.
Delker,
Yes.
Via,
Yes.
Utile,
Yes.
Hocker,
Yes.
Oberts, Badla. That's everybody.
Passes with 6 yeas and no nos. That brings us to the next item, item 5B. Parks and Rec Director, Andrew Carmike.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Joel Todd's here, as most of you already know, but officially he will be assuming the role of director position as the new Soldotna Parks and Rec Director, as the new and second in the world ever Parks and Rec Director for the city of Soldotna on May 19th. De facto, he's been doing a lot of it already. I won't hesitate for that, admitting that, but I'm confident and I'm smiling that where I'm handing it off to not only a groovy dude, but very capable in terms of that stuff. We're finishing up our spring season or in the midst of our dynamic changeover season. We've had the home show and then we had the Bears playoff, put the floors down, and then had the Bears playoff game. And then by Saturday afternoon, and we were dealing with concrete, the Bears had called, said, can we get the visiting team out some practice time on Sunday before they head out of state for the next game? And the only answer was, yeah, if they can skate on concrete, because our guys don't mess around. So it was gone. Well, can you turn the system on? Yeah, give us 7 days and $10,000 and we'll be glad to hook them up with an hour of ice. But the crew does not mess around at that time of the hour, at that time of the day. They're just great. So this weekend we have the Sports and Rec show. And that's going full tilt. They're setting up tonight and we going wild this morning and then they start today and then they'll be starting their VIP pre-show event tomorrow night and then through Saturday and Sunday in terms of that stuff. Our seasonal hiring is in full swing. Anybody who has friends who have a business or something like that knows what a challenge that is this day. 20 years ago, employees were good, bad, and indifferent. We're fighting for jobs. Now it's employers fighting for people who haven't got another job already. Out of the interviews we've offered, 25% have got other jobs by the time we can even offer them the position. And right now we've got that down to, we know the background checks and stuff like that that are done within 3 to 4 days after we interview these folks, and much of them have already got other jobs. So it's a challenge. I don't envy that part of Joel's job moving forward. In terms of that stuff, we also have some one full-time position that's open right now. One of our young workers, Colton, who did all the grass and stuff, got on with the turnaround out in the oil field, and we're stoked. 20-year-old young man, 21-year-old man that just gets it done. And you'd like to think after turnaround he'd come back, but he's one of those employees where you go, he's not coming back, because they are going to keep him. And hopefully we were a part of that, getting him qualified and those type of things. And over the years, we've had a lot of employees move on to different departments, but stuff like that, oil field. One gentleman that worked for us, Cole Bartels, was a rock star for us. He went to the oil field for a year or two and then came back for us and went to work for the City of Soldotna Maintenance Department. So we're kind of all over, but the hiring process is a challenge. As of right now, administration is recommending that a full-time labor position be added to the Parks and Rec staff, not just because of the field house, but because of the fact that when they looked at the numbers, when we looked at the numbers in the last 11 years, all of you pretty much have a good idea of what we've expanded in our duty roles. When it comes all the way down to it, we've only added 0.58, the equivalent of a full-time position in those last 11 years. So we've had some rock stars that have enabled that to happen. And thinking outside the box type folks and those type of things, thinking we're in pretty good shape there as far as that. And the council will move forward with those. One of the questions they asked last year was whether or not we had enough people. And going into last summer, we kind of did. But realized by the end, we've reached that point of no return where we need some more staff in terms of that stuff. So right now that's moving forward from the administration to the council in terms of those things. As far as our various areas, some of those things with the staffing and stuff, we had some people move on, the weather, everything else. We're getting ready to head into our dog park rejuvenation process. Ken was doing the purchase order for trees for that with one of the local providers today. We're not putting any spruce in there as far as normal stuff, but we are the Colorado spruce blue. We're looking that aren't beetle food and larches will be the initial installation. One of the challenges we've had was how do you put new trees into the dog park and not have them suffer because of the visitors' willingness to help water them in terms of those things. But believe it or not, we came up with a system that I saw in Germany and it will work really well and be very aesthetic. So moving forward with that, just the tree process, then there'll be some other features that we'll work through. Joel will be working with Connie and the dog folks to figure out what's most apropos there, because let's be real, we have Soldotna Creek Park, which is the type park, but the next busiest facility we have next to the sports center is the dog park. And if it's closed, the people are upset, but the faces you see on the dogs when the people keep driving past is even more disheartening. So that's one of our most popular parks. So we're doing that and making some changes in terms of those things. So in terms of operations, in terms of we are headed out to do some cleaning and spring and everything else as the snow goes away, more and more work becomes evident, but that's part of our seasonality. And when we get moving forward as best we can, we're scheduling into the parks for the summertime and holding to our no large events until after Memorial Day. And then also we are instituting, as far as a department policy, to not have any events on Mondays and Tuesdays, both for an event-free day for people can have the confidence to not have to compete with an event for their entertainment and or recreation, but also to give the park a little bit of a breathing room so that we can only have 5 days of getting it beat up by foot traffic and stuff, or as the old finance director, Joel Wilkins said, loved to death. And that's what can happen in that situation. So we're excited about that. We've coming in. So that event scheduling is filling up and very popular. The next thing is moving forward with the field house in terms of that stuff, but I would like Joel to cover that one. He's had his face in those plans and all those meetings up one side and down the other. And but I know some stuff happened in the last week or so that I wasn't involved with. So if Joel could come up and give an update on that process.
So field house, we've been obviously fine tuning the details. We got the plans, the 65% completion plans, which is kind of normal process for stuff like this. We got those back a couple weeks ago. So things are looking good. We made a few tweaks here and there, just trying to make sure that the facility that we build is going to meet the needs of everybody. I've reached out to a lot of the different user groups and met and done a lot of one-on-one conversations with like the pickleball people, the basketball people, wrestling people, whatnot. Make sure like, does this work for your event? Does this work for your basketball practice? Like what kind of flooring, like, do we need room for warming up before the game? Do we need bigger bathrooms, smaller bathrooms? Just kind of think outside the box. What are we missing? So those have been good. We did get the cost estimate back last week, and that was less than exciting. It was a little higher than we expected. Few things for that we kind of hoped some of the supply issues that we saw during COVID would sort of start coming back down, but they're not. They're actually going up still. And a lot of contractors that downsized during COVID. Now there's a lot of infrastructure money and a lot of big projects coming online, but they aren't able to find staff to rebuild their crews. So there's less of these contractors out there. So they're asking a higher rate for their services. So as a city, we are re-looking at a lot of our designs to figure out what can we cut back on, what could we push to a later date and build on a different timeline. And so we're kind of re-examining the project. It's not gonna, I don't know where we're at as far as timeline. I think we kind of hoped to maybe put it out to bid this summer. I think the plan is still try to get it out this summer, but it might be closer to this fall. But that's kind of the update on the field house. Still a 2.5 year project. So, if it did get delayed 4, 5, 6 months, it's not that big of a deal. And when you're dealing with a construction season that overlaps winters and stuff like that too, it gets a little complicated. But any questions on field house stuff?
Does anybody have any questions? I have one.
Mhm.
Just have one. So if it's pushed out a little bit, is that 2.5 years, the time frame that you have to get it done, or can we go past?
Yeah, there's no timeline. The bond that we took out, or whatever the money that we've taken from the bond bank, there's no timeline on when we can use that. We could build it 20 years from now if we wanted. So obviously we want it as fast as we can, but we also want to make sure that whatever we decide to build is the right project. So we're doing our due diligence. And there's also, from the financial side of it, it's like, is there still money at the state level that we might be able to get? Is there still federal money? We do know that Mary Patola has talked about adding some money into some possible funding sources for this project. It's one of those, like, probably won't happen, but maybe similar to what Murkowski did with the Boys and Girls Club. They were able to get some funding in last year's federal budget, so you never know what might be able to come down. So as a city, we're exploring everything. We have a meeting with the Rasmussen crew tomorrow, talk about Fieldhouse, because we're in the running for a Rasmussen grant to help pay for some of the project. So we'll be meeting with them tomorrow to talk more details. So there's, even if we extend the timeline a little bit, that also gives us a little bit more time to find extra money that we don't currently have.
Thank you for that answer, because that would be my concern, that we would not have that if something went on. And if somebody like Patola, I know some of it, if it goes to the state, it's not something that's a bond or anything, and it's not something that's a grant that you have, well, it could be a grant, but you don't have to be in a timeline where you pay anything back. Is that correct?
I think every funding source is a little bit different. So I do know that the bond it's in our bank account and we can spend it as we need. There's no timeline.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have a question?
I do. As far as you indicated 65% completion for the field house, and what the cost estimate was, no cost estimate based on 65% completion or 100%, or how does that go? And my second question to that would be, if the bond has been issued and is secured, is there interest on that bond that we're paying this entire time? So waiting 18 years could be a factor.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to wait 18 years, but yes, we are. We have taken out part of the bond. We voted, the city or the community voted for up to $15 million. So we initially took out a bond payment of 10 million to start the project, knowing that if we need that additional 5 million, we could take that or ask the bond bank for that at a later date, which means we wouldn't be paying interest on that extra 5 million up until the point we needed it.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly, but typically it's once a year. Municipalities are typically will go to the bond bank. So, and first question was, sorry.
As far as the estimate that was given, you said.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
high-
Construction projects, you typically have a 30, 60, 90%, 100% sort of timeline. That's when you get all the plans that
Sure.
show outlets and where the drinking fountain's going. And but the cost estimate is based off of the completed project, current prices from the day that we would start building, what other projects are looking like, what's the going rate for, light bulbs and electrical wires and moving parking lots and stuff like that.
What is the average contingency that they build into those?
Yeah, so we actually have a fairly big one. I think normally it's 6 or 7% of a project is a contingency. During COVID, everybody started adding an additional 5% for the crazy COVID times, and that is actually still in everybody's bid projects now. So I think it's a 13% contingency amount, which on a potentially almost a $20 million project, that's a lot of millions. But
Thank you. I appreciate the answers.
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. Yeah, So,
If I could, one more thing for Joel. We did receive an additional grant through it was CARES or the COVID funding. Remember, we got the grant for the recreational trailer and skates and that stuff.
Right.
Well, Laura Reiner and Joel have been working on to get that expanded. So Joel, I think, what was it, another 50 or another 80 on that? Or what was it? Another 20?
Nice.
I think it's like $45,000. It has not been confirmed, but it sounds very promising that we'll get some additional funding. This was a health and equity grant program. The first round, that's where we bought the trailer. We bought 200 pairs of ice skates, a skate sharpener, extra skate aids. Those are those little seal things, some skateboard ramps, and some rental helmets or like skateboarding helmets. So that was our mobile rec unit that we talked about over the past year that we'll be able to take out to Arc Lake, open up the gate and let people ice skate. We could take it to Solana Creek Park, roll out the skate ramps, let people skate. So that's just wrapping up. They did a second round, sounds promising that we'll get some additional funding. And so we have another laundry list of fun activities. We've expanded on that trailer concept. So a lot of the things that we're looking to add are just additional items that we'd be able to put into our mobile rec unit. And either we as a department could go off and run a Saturday activity at the park, or possibly we would allow user groups to rent this. And it would be full of, Connect Fours and soccer balls and footballs and flag football stuff, or, just all sorts of games and activities. So a classroom could rent it, a church could rent it, a family could rent it for a birthday party. And then it would come with, fully loaded with basically like a mobile PE unit, So if that goes over, like, we should hear back any day, I think, but it does sound very promising.
Anybody else have any questions? That was a good question, Ms. Hawker. So it sounds like we still have to pay on that, and it will be, so can they keep pushing it back, or is there some type of a time frame? Because your group has done incredible due diligence. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, I don't think we want to wait too long because, like, we know nothing ever gets cheaper. So I think the plan from the city's perspective is, like, we definitely want to move forward soon. But if it's a couple months or 6 months, like, if we'd rather take that extra couple seconds to make sure we're doing this right, because we don't get to do it twice.
Very much. So seeing no further questions, that brings me to my report, and I'll do one short thing and one a little longer. I attended the Soldotna Riverfront redevelopment on April 19th, and it was really an exceptional presentation. It was a review of what they did before, and it was additional information, some of which personally I liked, some of it I didn't really buy into that much. But I think that they represented the city well. I think sometimes we're not as big as some of the cities are that the people come from who are the consultants, but they listened and took everything in that people said, and they have a survey online. And I don't know if people, and I haven't done, I thought I did it, but I don't think I did. I haven't done my second survey yet, but they want to know what the people want, and they really have a wealth of knowledge and examples that they have learned from other communities, some our size, some bigger. So I think it's really important, if you get a chance, to look at that information and see what it can do for our city, but what the impact might be as well. And I think it's really a positive impact, and it will really develop that riverfront if it's done carefully, so that people will actually have access to that, walking, parking. There'll be green spaces. There'll be other events that can happen. There might be food. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it would take me a long time to go into everything, and that's not really why I'm here tonight. But I just wanted to mention that if you get a chance, and I'm not sure if it's open to everybody, this second one. It is, isn't it? That's what I thought. Okay, I've just been super busy.
Is there a link to
Pardon
it?
me?
Is there a link to it online?
Well, I can tell you that. Yeah, there's a website. So I believe it's this one's the open house recap and online survey. It's the Soldotna Riverfront Development. Let me see what it says. Complete online. Well, it's just, isn't this through the Soldotna City or not? It says have additional input or questions. I'll have to look into this because I'm not sure,
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure either, but there is a website that has all of the pretty pictures. And if you just Google Soldotna Riverfront Project, it should come up.
Right.
But if you just text me and I will look it up.
Okay. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that's confused here, but how is this not Soldotna Parks and Rec? How is it, is there an entity that's handling it? I mean, is it part of the city of Soldotna?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, it's-
Okay. Okay. So then maybe off of their website, then there's a link or something.
Joel's been forcing his way into it.
I
that
think
may
it's-
be the most politically correct approach that I could take.
Yeah,
And I
it's
couldn't
a
go.
grant that the city got to look at, could we do a downtown thing? You know, what could the future of this parcel look like? You know, it's big dreams, it's big pie in the sky. I am a part of that committee to make sure that Parks and Rec is at the table and I mean, if you look at the pictures, it's all Parks and Rec. It's just all green space. It's like, there's economic development, obviously, but it's like, let's highlight the river. And a big part of what this group has seen is Soldotna Creek is a catalyst for economic development. And so can we expand on that? Can we replicate it? Like maybe towards the bridge, and now we have two bubbles that are full of businesses and green space and walkable areas, and kind of creating more of a walkable space with also some economic development.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very well stated. And I think it's still in the process. You know, there were different people. Some people said, we only want green space in Alaska and Soldotna and didn't want anything. And I think that I think Joel knows more about, I know he knows a lot more about this than I do, but at that meeting, people brought up the fact that it needs to be something that really accentuates the city, is inclusive, makes it so that everybody who wants to do something there will be able to do that either by walking, by driving, and it'll be connected. And then the thing that I don't know which person I spoke with, or several of us were speaking with him at the end, was we need to make sure, and I don't know how Joel feels about this or you feel about this, Andrew, but we shouldn't just do everything all at once. You can do some of those things a little bit piecemeal. And I don't know if that's a good way to do something, but you don't have to say, we're going to get this done in 2 years. You can build upon it. And so I don't know, you know a lot more about it than I do. I know you do, but because you're totally involved, but it was a good discussion and lots of questions were asked.
Yeah, if I may comment, I
Yes.
went to the first meeting. I wasn't able to attend the second, but you know, some of the things that I like to see about it is that they were trying, at least from my impression was, it seemed like they were trying to get input. They were trying to take a lot of input and not just say, here's what we're gonna give to you. Here's what we want to present to you. They want to know, what would you like to see? What would a downtown, what would a walkway, what would, you know, a river walk look like? What would you want to see in that? If we had a space where people could walk through shops, what do you want to see? Do you want it open to traffic? Do you want it closed to traffic? What types of things would you like to see? And so I think that my impression is that they have been proceeding in somewhat of a correct way, and they're trying to take input. They're not just trying to come up with grandiose ideas and say, this is what you need to have, as far as coming into with like a big city influence, so to speak. But I think they want to know, what does our community want and what would benefit us, not just what would look cool or what would be cool. What would benefit you? What would make this better for others? And so I think that, I don't know how they could not involve Parks and Rec in that, with the green space and everything they're talking about, the walkway, the connectivity of the park to a downtown shopping or area with potential, you know, entertainment venues, possibly even things like that, or a possible like bars or music venues or just the other, you know, things like that. It'd be, I mean, I don't know, it'd be next to impossible to not include Parks and Rec in that, because a lot of the maintenance, a lot of the upkeep and whatever goes on is going to fall on Parks and Rec.
On that note, no. So yes, thank you. That's a good point. And they were the same this time. They asked people what they wanted. They had people rate things. You could put comments in, and they were live comments that would show on the screen, and then they'd be gone. But they are, I believe, and I haven't gone back to look at everything that was in there afterwards to see if they actually included every single comment. But I felt it was inclusive. I felt they did their work. I felt they listened. And I do believe they went over on Saturday to a meeting and spoke in Kenai. No, they spoke at a meeting. I don't remember the name of it because I've been in too many meetings myself this last week. Do you remember?
Yeah, they went to, I don't know what it's called, but it was something Kenai River Fish, something, a bunch of scientists that are looking at rivers and fishes and stuff. And so it's not just like, let's build this up full of businesses. It's like, we're on the Kenai River. Let's make sure that we're a part of, maintaining our river and having, hopefully having here fish forever.
Questions on that? If not, I'll go.
I was just going to say, thank you, Joel, for going and being that presence. And I know most of us are here for, to try to support the Parks and Rec, of course. And we appreciate you being there. And I wanted to be there too. I kind of had a surgery in the meantime. So, but it's very interesting to hear the comments. And maybe we can definitely become a combined force to work through this.
Ms. Hawker. So anybody else? Okay, that'll bring me to my next comment. So celebration for Mr. Carmichael tonight, because he is being a jerk and leaving us. I'm just teasing. Okay, he is
The
not.
jury's out on both.
Good thing I didn't have that in, did I? No, you've been wonderful. So you need to stand up and take it. So, but I need to have Jim, would you sign the card too? Yeah. So, this is from everybody. And I had a little birdie tell me one of the things I should get. I'm not gonna tell you the birdie, but,
Filter? Wait a minute, I don't have to have a filter anymore.
okay, and I figured this was a good bag for you to have. You can carry it around with you. So
Well, having been here 30 years, I am a bit of a dinosaur.
nothing will jump out at you, promise. But be careful.
Some of those butterfly
Well,
ones. where
there's
they
some
close it.
newspapers too,
Well, the comics.
the comics.
This is the only section of the media these days you can believe.
I- Joel, would you get a picture?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It will be. As I grow some.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Did you get it? Okay. And this
I
is,
just had my
this is
birthday.
from everybody.
Like
So
another
that says party, and there's a
Yeah.
reason behind the cup. And the other thing that the little thing is wrapped in, you're gonna have your very own toilet paper.
It's good.
There was something in there. Oh, and the cup is for something. Yes, that's what, that's
When
your,
we go snow machine, believe it or not, I'm the only one that ever has toilet paper, including my wife.
that cup is 1 cup a day.
And you can actually measure this.
No,
On
not
the
that,
special
no, that's for the beer.
I know. But the solo cups you can measure.
This is beer. Okay.
This is for the beer.
More, that's a really good one for you. It has something about fishing in there.
The time, I am the time.
Okay, now this is that just,
Oh, good.
yeah, that's a good one
That's a word
too.
Puzzle.
The word puzzle, but look. Demetrius is on vacation. This is you.
I'm on it. I'm on it. Jill says I have to be dressed by 5:30 PM when she gets home. She's pushing for 4:45. I said, okay, that'll work. Uh-oh.
We're not supposed to have this in here, but it's in here.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah. That was harder to find than you can imagine.
Sure it will.
So
Sure it will.
I brought a pen and you
That
read
would
what
be
it
awesome,
says.
Jill. Yeah.
There's a little note to you. What's on the top?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's you.
thank you.
Yep.
Especially since we were gonna move out after I retired, and then Jill looked at me about 2 years ago. She said, "We've never had Alaska's off in the summer."
Mhm.
And then she said, "And I'd kind of like to get an ocean boat." That was one of the most easy, convincing arguments she's ever presented to me on a purchase. Well, I was gonna I was thinking about driving a cab and not picking anybody up, so I don't have to deal with the Karens. And then I think I'm gonna go maybe help.
Bonk some of those?
No, I'm thinking I'm gonna go substitute teach, try that.
Oh.
No schedule, little bit. Yeah. Yes. What's that? No. Hopefully I don't do- But we were snow machining and a friend of ours' daughter, she's 10. And she said, if you substitute at K Beach, don't tell them your first name. So I'm the only one who knows it.
Oh. Little kids are funny about that.
Okay, Bree. And then she took off and she's one of those kids that all the people who actually ride with us later said, I can't lose her. Guys on big 800s and she's on this little tiny snow machine flying behind them and they can't lose her. And she doesn't say anything. She just goes, except for.
Yeah. Well, I have to say,
Thank you.
this was hard to find, but trying to find a really,
Nice one.
but it's a really nice one.
Usually they
I
get those
asked-
little ones. I have one of those ones. somebody gave me.
No, this
Well,
is-
That doesn't do any good.
They
That's not
had,
gonna get me a fishing spot. That will get me a fishing.
yeah,
spot.
they had wooden ones, but they looked like they'd break, and I thought, my goodness. So I have a pencil, and if you use this one right here, this end, you can write a little note on it. So I don't know if we want to start it down there.
Years
Pass it
ago, I
down.
used to send my youngest daughter down when she was about 8
Mhm.
with the longest rod I had to the riverbank. And people would all move out for this little girl. You remember Michelle? She'd be down there flaying away. Of course, I had to go in and help her. So that's how I'd get fishing spots when I lived at Salado Creek Park. And I'd send her down. She'd go wailing around. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, the dad's helping. Wait a minute, Mr. Fatto's now in the spot where she was. But no,
Well,
thank you very much.
Enjoy your gift cards.
Yes.
The hat I almost bought you, you probably would have killed me. So I decided you better go get some of your own stuff. And
I
the
can do
beer
that.
you don't have to share.
Yes.
And everybody who's here tonight signed it, but
Thank you
it's
very
from
much.
everybody.
I can
So-
only say that whether it's been the council or the advisory boards with whom I've worked, I have been one of the most spoiled Parks and Rec directors in the history of our industry.
Cool. This is a good community.
It is far and above and I say this all the time, when Joel and I go to conferences, we hide and keep our mouth shut because we hear the plight of all these other departments having to beg, borrow, and we were up in Fairbanks and they were so proud of this one piece of equipment they'd had. They've been trying to get it for 5 years. And I said, wow, I need to take a look at that. And what it was a large format printer and laminator. You know, oh, it's smaller than ours. And we've had ours for 5 years and it said they needed it. But that's all the signs you see in the sandwich boards and everything else.
Mhm.
But we've been fortunate with Soldotna having the focus on quality of life being just as paramount as anything else. And now you see this.
That is the actual thing, I think, isn't
Right.
it? Or how does it, oh, it is good,
Yeah.
because I couldn't figure that one out at first.
So whether it's when back in the days of the council that hired me or now, and you see the fruits, the Soldotna Creek Park and the flowers on the streets
Mhm.
and some of those, when, of course, the topic about can we piecemeal it? The river walks that we now have are piecemeal. The
Yeah,
plan was
they
laid out,
really are.
Soldotna's had those plans and then filled in the pieces, even with our, the master plan we did. If you look back, we've accomplished a bunch.
Yeah.
already. And in last budget
Mhm.
cycle,
Yeah.
we had a project that was slated for 2 years out. The council said, no, we want to pay for that.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's common in. But it is.
Yeah. I think-
Thank you all for making my life wonderful.
Oh, good. We'll enjoy it.
And
Pretty
helping me
abstract,
smile,
Brandon.
go back, leaving you in good hands. We
Yep.
are moving forward, or I'm leaving myself and my recreational opportunities in good hands. with the crew we have.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
happy.
Yeah, I think it's been a good team.
Yes.
Okay, we have, thank you. Anybody want to make,
Well, it was an interesting mix with Mr. Portlandia. And then Mr. Conservative. And over the years, we figured out, well, we aren't so far apart. We aren't so far apart, when we start talking. So it shows that both sides can play together very well and be productive. And I have, over the years, raised a family here and life is happy.
Okay, that takes us to item D, city manager. There's no city manager tonight. We have nobody in the public unless you'd like to make another comment, sir. That takes us to item 7, ex officio council members, Chilson comments, and he is not here either. So I'm going to go ahead and call on the board and for your comments, and who'd like to start?
Can I start? May have to step out
Oh,
or
that's right. Thank
a
you.
few minutes early, but I have another meeting. But I wanted to say, really quick, if I can do this without crying. I'm really excited about Joel. But our history. And I'm really excited for you. I'm really thankful for you because without your amazing leadership, the Wednesday Market, my baby, my child would not be what it is. And then of course, Joel, he came on, helped to facilitate how great it is. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. We all feel the same way. We just didn't want to cry first.
Leave it to me. I can cry. But yeah, I'm going to miss you, Andrew, and I love you dearly. And we've got a lot of history together. And I'm just so appreciative because the Wednesday Market is such a special thing. And it just goes to show how amazing our town is and how, what a great asset you have been to making this town so special. And I know that whatever you move on to do, you will have the same impact that you have had in the Parks and Rec. I know that you're going to make a huge difference wherever you go and whatever you decide to do. It'll be amazing. And I appreciate you. Love you.
Thank you, Ms. Villa.
Okay, now how do I follow that without, I'm already bawling, so I just want to say that, Andrew, and Joel right along beside him, we wouldn't have Three Friends Talk Park. We wouldn't have it. They encouraged me when I wanted to give up, and they teased me when I didn't think I deserved it. But they kept me going, and we took every hurdle as one at a time, and what he has given, what they have given the community is beyond. I mean, all you have to do is look around. This isn't just for us. We're doing this for our future generations. Once we're gone, these things will still be here. And I'm very proud of the park. I'm proud of Soldotna Creek Park. When anybody comes, that's the first thing I tell them. I mean, we've got amazing opportunity here, and we've got amazing people that made it happen. And I want to say thank you. I'm such a big boob. Annette, doggone it. But no, truly, there's really no words that express it other than I'm truly appreciative of you guys. And I look forward to working with Joel. And we know who the backup will be. You can't go far. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Who'd like to go next?
Well, congratulations, Andrew, because embrace it. It's really the best thing. I've been at it for 10 years now, and I can tell you it's a good thing. It's awesome. Thank you for all your hard work, and congratulations to Joel. Looking forward to seeing what else will be on the menu this year. All right, so thanks.
Thank you very much. Who would like to go next? Mr.
I just want to say thank you, Andrew. I mean, I've been at this not nearly as many years as you, but been on, I don't even remember when I joined the board, and keep thinking of maybe one of these days stepping away from it. But you're part of the reason that I've stayed on it. And then I got to meet Joel through the whole Putzall thing and started to get involved that way. And so it's hard to step away from it because it's just it's a small committee that does provide a huge benefit to this community. I mean, it's just amazing the impact that I think that the Parks and Rec has made overall and being connected with that. And I just find it difficult to pull myself away from it. So I just have enjoyed it. And even though I'm late for half the meetings and I roll in and I apologize for that, but I mean, I just I appreciate the opportunity to work with both of you and I look forward to working with Joel in the future.
Very much. Would you like to go next, Ms. Sobers?
I'll just say congratulations, Andrew. Hope you enjoy your next endeavors and welcome to Joel.
If I could interject, I sit at this counter and I see the Wednesday park that I take everything, my family to every Wednesday. I go there, music, everything else. I see a dog park catalyst. And you started the school that my kids went through. My daughters finished 8th grade. They could pass the equivalency exam because of you. So I see this community that raised me as well. Sometimes, some ways you guys didn't do a very good job. But I see my city and I see people. And I see people who helped raise my kids, and I see people, some of Annette's guidance. Connie, I didn't think you ever got disappointed. But I do know that people call me, how did you do it? Guess who I sent them to? I said, I didn't do squat. Connie did it. I remember when Annette came in and was trying to figure out put the hot dog stand in the first time, she had to set up to be at the chamber. Ended up over Spinard. Trying to figure out where to do that. And then next thing you know, farmer market or the Wednesday market. We had that one mean lady that took it over for a while. But. Thank you. So it didn't do any good while I was living with the park director, and I'm really sure it won't do me any good when Joel's living with the wife of the park director. There still won't be both spots, but I my way all the way to and from because that's just.
Good structure. So, and I was going to cry, but I'm pulling it together. But thank you for the comment about the school board. It's sort of been my life, my whole life. And I'm really glad I moved up to Soldotna, even though I love Ninilchik, because the people here are just as nice as the people in Ninilchik, and there are more of you. And I really enjoyed getting to know a lot of people, and I see the difference you made in what you did and how you did it. And I think that your heart has always been in it, even during the difficult times. And so that's pretty monumental to me, because sometimes during the difficult times, we like pull back and say, I'm done. And so those are the times you have to sort of like spread through and figure out how to do something. And you've been inclusive. You've been funny as all get out. I said get out instead of another word. And so, I've really enjoyed that. Some of our talks are totally insane, but they're fun. And you and I have a lot in common in some ways, and then some ways no. But thank you for what you've done for the community. Thank you for being somebody who looked out to see things either through your eyes or other eyes that somebody brought up to you and said, hey, we need to look into this, and you'd look into it. Or you'd have your committee look into it with you, and you do a lot of things. So I appreciate that. So I did ask for drive slowly signs. I didn't get them yet by Riverview Park. Or,
There was a typo when we got them because they got those slow children playing.
and they're not that slow over
No,
there.
I said slow penny.
Oh, oh, this is going to be
Next time back.
interesting. Okay, so I take everything nice I said back. I am one of those that I got to get it done. Yep, but okay, and then. And so then, and the other thing is, I asked you a question and you never got back to me, and so now I have to pose this other young man that I know a little bit. I'll pose this to you, but I'm gonna pose it to you first. How can we be more helpful as an advisory board to you as the director? Mr. Carmichael and soon to be Mr. Todd. You can wait and think about it. He can't. I want at least one thing.
That question came up in the last year or so.
I have the
Every-
date.
I can improve upon perfection.
You're perfect
You
and I am.
are-
No, we're
the
not.
board has been there when we needed
Well,
them.
we have to.
They've not, but they haven't been there. when it Wasn't appropriate.
Mhm.
Again, when we talk about the various communities, the plights they have, we hear stories of meddling.
Mm.
Board members making department heads and people's lives miserable. When we've stepped up and said, that's, when we've needed help, we've come to you and you've given us guidance and support. When I first started, I was like, young and egotistical, so I don't need a board. And then as time goes on, wait a minute, not only do I need this board as a buffer, I need that perspective. And right now, whenever we asked you to go this, I know you all step up. So even though you feel like you've quietly not done much, I've come to realize that at the end of the day or end of the thing, if I've quietly not felt like I've not done much, I see the results. And maybe the best guidance and some of the readings I've done, they say sometimes the best leaders are invisible.
Mhm. That's
Hold
true.
Great respect without fear.
Mhm.
And that's where there's something going on, Connie lets me know.
Mhm.
There's something going on, Annette lets me know. Everybody. And that's what we need is those ears out in the community. Find out what we're missing. If anybody can figure out what to do with the homeless guy that wants to park in Park, I'm sure Joel would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, well, we've got this on the, not a bad fellow or anything else, it's just some of the towns, but
Mhm.
it's not that you're invisible or anything else. Leadership is garnered, and I know the board has quietly gone to bat for us. And we didn't remember the whole bicycle stuff.
Yeah.
Very-
Yep.
Some of the board members at that time got nuked off the board because they disagreed with certain people,
I remember
but they
that.
went to bat for us.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like having a parent that's what you're doing, keep me informed. You know, if you need to go back.
Okay, so I guess then you've actually done exactly what I asked. Yeah, so I
So
appreciate that.
couldn't ask it anymore.
Mhm.
Couldn't ask me if it's
Yeah.
overall top. Some of those things, when I went through stuff last year. I knew that you're true, that you've been through work.
You can go there, yeah.
So.
It's
and
been a hard.
Connie was the back lady, so I knew she was viewed as,
Yeah. Mhm.
Jim deals with people's hearts. Denise, you dealt with the public for the park, so
Mhm.
you understand kind of the wedge that the department is. And that deals with people over. And the lady over here created the thing.
Mhm.
Leona. And Leona and I have some of the same dental insurance. Many people don't know. I will speak to her after that, but. Over that changed, and over the years, we had a number of people come onto the board that the town with me, and they had an agenda. And then after they were on for a while, like, wait a minute. Oh.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but I don't understand what you do.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. Mhm. Yeah.
All the people we've been able to do it.
Mhm.
Those people wouldn't stay around if we had board members or people that bother.
No, I have to agree with you on that. This board, I've been on several boards, and this board is a real, not just Parks and Rec, but several other boards in the state and whatnot, and this is a really good board. And I've been on good boards as well. But I think it takes a certain group of people to let other people who are in charge do what they're going to do. It's governance and ethics. And it's really what it's all about. How do you let people do what they're supposed to do and just be there if they need you? Exactly what you said. So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Todd. I guess we're on that. That's what we are now, Mr. Todd. So thank you very much for stepping up. And as always, going far above and beyond, just like you. And I am really blessed and feel happy just having worked with you. You know, and you too. So I guess this brings us to item 9, 6:47 PM. If there are no more comments, we will adjourn. We're gonna have.